You are listening to War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast presented by Realm of the Mist Entertainment with your host, John Tolley.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. We are coming to you tonight, as always, from deep within the Outer Rim, far beyond the watchful eyes of the Galactic Empire. My name is John Mark Tolley, and joining me today, as always, is Mr. Ray Rumsey. Ray, how are you today, sir?
I'm very well, thank you very much. Hello, everyone.
Hello, and also back from his time in the back to tank finally. It's good to see you again, Mr. Joe Cahill.
Hey, everybody. Glad to be back.
It's good to see you back. It's good to see you back. We missed your input last week, unfortunately, Ray. Our Joe on the new Star Wars trailer. So just real quick, why don't you give us your quick take on what you thought of the last Star Wars trailer?
It has got me hyped.
Okay.
My only concern is it's too hyped.
That's a good. Well, we talked about this last week, and I just want to get your take on it. And I was kind of hoping you would have been here last week because it would have been nice to get a filmmaker's perspective on a lot of the questions that we had. And one of them that I kind of brought up is that it seemed like in Last Jedi they went out of their way not to give any fan service, not to give the fans what they wanted. And it seems like, at least in this last trailer, they went just the opposite. It's like the pendulum swung all the way to here's all the fan service. Let's see how much fan service we can fit into this trailer. Do you think that you can go too far in that?
Yeah, because now you set the bar really, really high for your film.
Yeah.
And if you don't have, a hit, that's going to come back and bite you.
Yeah.
It can be a great film, but if it doesn't live up to the hype of that trailer, they're not going to forgive you. Especially these fans.
Oh yeah. Definitely. So have either of you guys had a chance to see the Mandalorian trailer yet?
No.
No, I admit I haven't seen it either.
Oh. It looks really good. I've only had a chance to see it once, so I haven't really got a chance to really look at it and break it down, but definitely the Old West vibe is there. There's definitely a good, the bad, and the ugly spaghetti western feel to it.
All right.
Which I think is really, really cool. Bill Burr is in it, which I don't know why, that just blew my mind. I didn't even know he was a Star Wars fan, but he's playing a bounty hunter. But yeah, it looks really interesting. It looks really good. If for those I don't know if either one of you have the Disney Plus service, is that enough to get you to buy it? Is the Mandalorian enough to get you to buy the Disney Plus service if you haven't already?
No.
Yeah,
no.
For one show, I don't know. That's a pretty big gamble.
Yeah. That's, and I mean,
maybe if it's a hit.
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan is out once Obi-Wan comes out too.
I think the Obi-Wan will be for me the one that will get me, because it's the same thing I had with CBS All Access in Star Trek. Was I watched some of the second season on like snippets and a few episodes that they had for free on like YouTube and stuff like that, and I liked some of it, but it still wasn't enough for me to get CBS All Access. But Picard is really tempting me to get that because that show looks good. But again, it's one of those things like, oh, and it's the same thing because there's so many other streaming services. It's like you end up playing almost as much as you would if you just had cable. I mean, if you get all the different streaming services, you're paying,
Yeah,
So,
it adds up after a while. It's like $9 here, $10 there. Just it adds up.
Oh yeah, definitely. I haven't heard anything else in the Star Wars, news. What about you guys? Have you been keeping up? Have you heard anything that maybe I haven't?
Nothing's really coming to mind. Everybody seems to be really kind of talking about The Mandalorian right now that I've seen.
Yeah. I see The Mandalorian, of course. We're getting a little bit more on Obi-Wan. I know Ewan McGregor has been doing the rounds on the different talk show hosts, and that's the first thing that seems to be on everyone's lips is the Obi-Wan series.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
He seems to be growing the beard out.
Yeah,
of course.
The other is of course still the trailer on some of the stuff that people are hoping are legend editions. Is the ghost back there?
Right.
And if it is, who's piloting?
Wait,
will we find out?
Yes. I also mentioned that there was a few on last week's show that there was a couple of ships from the video games. Kyle Katarn and I can't think of the other guy's name. That was in one of the old video games, Star Wars video games. It'll come to me later, I'm sure. I'll be asleep and be like, that was that guy's name.
Happens to me all the time.
What are you talking about? Sorry. But yeah, there was a ton of ships. I mean, that's what I was kind of talking about earlier was the fan service of giving us all these ships. But yeah, it seems like everyone's, like you said, everyone's just kind of getting ready for the movie and getting ready for what's going to be probably the biggest month in possibly Star Wars history of the end of the Skywalker saga in December.
Yeah,
right.
I know we're going to be on hiatus, but we're going to have to come back and do something about.
Right. Oh, you know what?
That.
You know what? There was one piece of news that I did see today. Actually, I can't seem to find it right this second, but apparently Carrie Fisher's brother came out and said what the original design for The Last Jedi actually was, and that it was that she was going to be the last Jedi, and she was going to have her lightsaber.
Well, that would explain the fly through space scene.
Yeah.
I remember that now. I was like, there was something I saw, but I couldn't remember because I didn't actually get to read into the article. I didn't have time. I just saw the headline for it and the little blurb that they usually put to kind of, tease you to get you to read it. And I saw that. I was like, oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, of course, obviously they had to change the plan, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember what I was wanting to talk to you about, Joe, last week that I was hoping you would have been on, is to talk about the Benioff and Weiss leaving, and from a filmmaker's perspective, how regular and how, because I think people are making a big deal about it, but how common it is for something like that to happen where a person is set to either write a movie or be part of a movie, and then something happens and they have to drop out last minute. I mean, how common is that in the filmmaking business?
Frequent. It's very
and
frequent.
Yeah, and like we were talking, it could have been. I've been hearing things like it was conflict of interest. They had something already planned, and they just decided to go this way instead of that way, basically, type of thing. So I think people, and same with rewrites. I mean, rewrites are very common, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah.
Rewrites, reshoots, and
I am in the middle of rewriting big chunks of Last Battleship right now.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to start shooting next summer on that one.
Yeah.
So, we're still writing, oh, hey, here's some script updates. And the actors are like, wow, again.
Yeah. So I think now, just because we see it more, because of the internet, that people make a big deal about, especially reshoots.
Right.
People think that, they see, oh, they're reshooting. And everyone can think, well, this must mean that the movie sucked if they're doing reshoots. And as you can probably attest to, reshoots are also something that's very common.
Yeah, very common.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. So a lot of times it's, you're editing and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
And so it's time to go back and reshoot that. Or, we missed something. There's a lot of reasons to go back and do reshoots. You can have a rewrite. Suddenly they don't want something in canon, especially when you're working in somebody else's swimming pool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
If you're in your own swimming pool, bite me, it's going to go this way.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you're in theirs, and he was in theirs, they have the power to say, yeah, we don't like that. That doesn't really follow our future plans.
Yes.
So let's just head our own ways, agree to disagree, and go our own directions.
That's fair.
That's right.
You got another 30, film offers, so you're not going to get hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what it was with Benioff and Weiss. I think it was probably a combination of several things, but I know that I heard that they're doing a Netflix series, so it could have been that they thought, we get paid once a year for a 3-movie deal, or we can get paid, however much for a 4-season deal. So they might have thought, hey, we're getting paid more regularly with this Netflix deal than we would be for 3 movies compared to 3 seasons of 10 episodes or whatever it would be, 15 episodes or whatever. And they probably went with like, hey, let's go this way. We're going to, overall make more money. And
and it all depends on what their deal was.
Yeah. This is true. This is true too. And I mean, you do have the fact that there was a bit, especially after the way that the last season of Game of Thrones ended, and some of the disappointment in that, there was this kind of question looming over them of could they come up with a story on their own? Because a lot of people noticed that the quality of at least with Game of Thrones, that once they ran out of material from the book, that the quality seemed to kind of go down. That once they were on their own and they were having to make their own creative decisions, that a lot of people didn't think that the show really lived up to the scrutiny and the hype that it had for its first, 5-7 seasons or whatever it was.
Right.
So that's always a possibility. But again, we'll never know until we're able to, hear directly from them.
And that's a good point, is especially with this being the end and how badly the end of Game of Thrones was received.
Yeah.
I mean, you definitely don't want to screw up and
the way, especially with what happened with Last Jedi, and the backlash from that, and then the backlash from Solo. I think I'm thinking they're really, really banking on this film doing really good and bringing back the fans, and then really banking on their streaming shows. their quote-unquote television shows.
Right.
I think that's what they're really banking on from now on in the future is television.
Right. Well, and folks, if you're really enjoying any of the Star Wars films on your streaming services, be prepared to watch them all vanish suddenly the day Disney goes live.
Yes. Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And probably before it goes live. That way you'll be excited to see it again and have to go pay for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it is time to go on to our main topic for the day, for the night, the day, whatever time it might be in your corner of the world. All right. Well, since its inception, the Galactic Empire has ruled with an iron fist over the galaxy, keeping under its tyrannical reign the people of the galaxy, or at least that's what the rebels would have you believe. The rebels would have you believe that the Empire is pure evil, keeping the poor citizens of the galaxy under its tyrannical thumb, taking away all their freedoms, all their freedoms. But is that really the case? Tonight on War of the Stars, we take a look at the age-old question, is the Empire evil? So I think before we get started with this, we need to set some parameters as far as when we say evil. So the dictionary definition for evil is profoundly is an adjective. It means profoundly immoral and wicked. It is also a noun. Profound immorality, wickedness, especially when regarded as a supernatural force. So we'll just each ask each of you this question, and then we'll kind of dive into it a little bit more. So I'll start with you, Ray. Ray, is the Empire evil?
Let's see how to.
I know this is a harder question
to start, because I mean, we kind of talked about it before we started recording, and Joe brought up a very good point about you had a very sinister and evil leader, but was the Empire itself evil? So if I go off of what Joe's saying and I take that part out of it, because they never specifically say. So here's where my mind kind of went on that. For the first 3 movies, we watched the Emperor kind of double dip. People had no idea that he was the Emperor. So did he continue that charade afterwards? Who really knows? They didn't really say in the movies that the 4, 5, and 6 that I remember. So that's what I'm basing mine off of. And I'm gonna say that yes, the Empire was evil.
What about you, Joe? What is your?
No, the Empire is not evil in itself. It had an evil leader. I look at it like Rome. The Empire's benefits outweighed even Palpatine. Trade routes were opened up. You had a strong military for defense. Whenever you were on a planet, you didn't see a lot of Imperial. You saw troopers walking around, but they weren't in anybody's face.
Yeah.
So no, and that evil was at the top. So it didn't. I don't think it really dribbled down.
Well, I just had a.
What's that?
When you said about trade routes opening, you had trade routes opening up. I just had a flashback to Monty Python's Life of Brian. What have the Romans given us? Well, they given us roads. Yeah.
Besides that, aqueducts.
What has the Empire given us? Well, they gave us peace and and I think it also depends on
running
as
water.
Far as your opinion of the Empire would also depend on how you fell under imperial rule and what the Empire did for you. I remember this has been years ago when I got the old TIE Fighter video game. It had a little novella inside of it, and it was all about this kid from this planet that is taken over by the Empire who becomes a TIE Fighter pilot. And in his world was engulfed in civil war, being torn apart, and the Empire comes in and basically says, knock it off. And basically forced him into the negotiation table to come to terms. And so to this kid, the Empire saved his planet. Mm-hmm. So he looked at the Empire as liberators. This is a planet that was on the brink of destruction, and the Empire came in and rebuilt the infrastructure. They brought peace and stability to the government, and gave people like this kid hope, and ironically hope, and something that he could do. He became a TIE pilot. So, but then you look at what the Empire did to planets like Kashyyyk or to Mon Cal, where they enslaved the population.
That's where you see Palpatine's hand, because Palpatine was a bigot. He was very human.
I mean, this is the question, though: is if Palpatine had died earlier, and there had been a setup for a succession, would we have seen the same thing? Or
I think we would have seen the same thing, just like in Rome. At a certain point, the emperors, it was just who was least bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's what it came down to. Who was a good emperor, but who was the least bad emperor.
Yeah, and I mean, when we look at evil as far as a governmental structure, what can we look at in history and say, okay, this is an example of a government that was evil? I mean, do we go with the big?
Do we want to go there?
Yeah, like all of them.
As far as like a tyrannical dictatorship. I mean, we use
that stands out.
Is of course I don't know if we'll get demonetized for this, but Germany during the 1940s,
right,
is like I think that when most people think of evil dictatorship thing, they look at the Nazis. But does that mean? But
like Joe was saying, though, like that the whole German army at the time and everything that was going on and all that, most of those people were just following orders.
Yeah, but I mean, we're not talking, and we can make the argument about not all the stormtroopers were evil. So what I'm saying is the Empire evil. I'm talking about the governors, the Moffs. It's the same thing with, you can say with Nazi Germany. Yes, the average stormtroopers were not evil, but the generals, the people that were in the higher echelon of the party, those that were, the Himmlers, the people like that, those were the ones that were evil. But here's the question, though, is we can say that, does that mean that just because the Nazis were evil, does that mean that all fascists were evil?
Yeah.
Because you can
let's not go there. We're going to get a big. Yeah. We might actually get a lot of new followers, but
I don't know if we're the ones we want.
Well, I'm looking at it as, you have a point. The lower level, the stormtroopers, all of that. Were the governors evil? Some, I'm sure. Were all of them evil? No, it probably had some good governors. You also probably had some that weren't evil, but were padding their pockets.
That's true.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and we also have to look at what kind of government structure did the empire run off of? I mean, how did the government work? Did it work in a very way that stifled personal freedoms? Did it work in a way that was very heavy-handed, or was it kind of like you gave the example of Rome, where the amount of freedom that each area had depended on how far they were away from, in Rome's case, how far they were away from Rome itself and who happened to be the governor of that territory. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's possible that's kind of the way the empire was itself, it all depended on, as you said, who happened to be the governor of that territory.
Right. Which I think Tarkin made mention to at one point.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what, at the beginning of New Hope, that was part of what happened was
direct control.
Took direct control of each of their
sectors.
Each of the sectors, yeah. So, I mean, it seems to me that, and this is kind of going off subject as far as, is the empire evil, but it seems to me that the empire almost worked on more of a medieval
like a medieval what they call that. Yeah,
that type of government.
I'd agree.
I mean,
with
it's an almost a direct copy of Roman imperial,
right?
Yeah,
which fell into feudalism.
Thank you. I know it started with an F.
That was feudalism, where you had, and it seemed to me that at least the people that got the government, and this is where you can almost say that you were more than likely going to have governors that were, if not evil, at the least, they just didn't care. They were just in it, like you said, they were just in it for the money. So they would allow things to happen within their sector because they're getting paid. And most of them were probably in close somehow with Palpatine. So that's how they got their post. It wasn't because they were necessarily good at their job. It was just they happened to have connections. Mm-hmm. And, the I'll scratch your back, if you scratch mine type of thing. So, and again, I mean, I think it would depend on who you asked, as I said at the beginning. So if you were to ask, someone that, who benefited from the imperial rule, then yes, he'd say, no, of course not. The empire is not evil. The empire is wonderful. But if you were to ask somebody who had lost their house or had lost their family or something had happened to them, they would turn around and say, well, heck yeah, the empire's evil. I mean,
but were they traitors? Were they doing something they shouldn't have been doing? Is that why they lost it?
That's the argument that the other side would say.
Were they lawbreakers? We have to have order.
Exactly.
And your neighbors deserve order.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
but
right.
I mean, why
I will eventually become the pagan god emperor.
What?
I said that's why I will eventually become the pagan god emperor.
I mean, we see a lot of smuggling going on, so we know that somehow or another the empire is restricting items. Like certain things are allowed to be bought and sold and all of that. Otherwise, there wouldn't be smuggling. I mean, that kind of stuff just creates
spice
black
smugglers,
markets.
man. Come on, drugs. You people want us to allow dangerous drugs into the population? No, it's our job to protect them.
Okay, all right, that's fair. But what about taking in children to train up as stormtroopers?
Hey, that's the first order.
Yeah, I mean
that's not the empire. That's the first order. The empire recruited from the best of the best.
Yep.
Well, they had
Oh,
to
of
have
course,
got
you'll
the
be able to put the
stormtroopers
best
from
of it.
somewhere.
Farsighted.
It takes the best. It takes the best to protect the people.
It takes
That's
the best. Yeah. So they can't hit nothing.
I'm a good devil's advocate.
Oh, so let me guess. The Alderaan was just a mining accident, right?
Oh yeah, the test firing of the Death Star was supposed to, bore into their moon so they could get out this stuff.
Oh, and it was off.
And yeah, there was a malfunction, and the targeting was off, and it glancingly struck.
Wow.
But
the power of the mining beams,
you know
destroyed
what?
the planet.
You know what though? Like talking about that real quick, because it's kind of funny to me about. So at one point in one of the other shows, we were talking about Darth Vader himself and how I was saying he was just really over dramatic. I'm like, how over dramatic is that? He's like, tell me what I want to know. No? Okay, we're gonna blow up your planet. Like that's just you had to go there.
Well, that would be an example of one of the evil guys at the top.
Tarkin. Yeah.
Yes. And that would be a psychosis there.
Yeah. A little bit.
Just a little bit of sociopathic issues.
Wow.
Alderaan? What? I never heard of it. Alderaan.
Yeah. What?
I know it's like that legendary cloner world you guys keep talking about too.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
It's been deleted from the archives. Quite literally. Oh, jeez.
In the Imperial Senate. What Senate?
Senate?
Yeah,
well,
I have to agree with you though, Mark. It's definitely and that goes to say with any kind of justice or governmental system or whatever. It's all about perception. It's how you see it.
Yeah,
well, good's their propaganda machine as well.
Oh yeah.
Just kind of what I was just doing.
And we're as far as in universe or looking at it from as they say a certain point of view. There's the whole saying of the winners write the history.
Right.
And because we're looking at it from the viewpoint of the rebels initially won. So they wrote the history of the Empire as far as our perception of it. So we're looking at it and we're, as fans of Star Wars, we're meant to look at the Empire as the bad guys. That's how we're meant to look at them. We are meant to look at them as evil. And I mean, that's how George set it up. He set very strict parameters, especially with the original trilogy, of being very black and white. Of these guys good, rebels good, Empire bad.
Right.
And he set that up very. Now it was the later books and the comics and everything that came up that kind of flushed out that and made it more gray, if you will. So, but initially, I mean, that's what Star Wars has always been, this very distinct morality tale of good versus evil. So I think if you were to ask George Lucas, is the Empire evil? He would say unequivocally, yes. That's the way it was meant to be.
I'd agree with that.
Yep. That's how he wanted it to. That was his vision.
Yeah, that was so.
But nobody could be happy with that.
Of course not.
No, and I'm gonna. That's it. We're calling for a ban on it, and I don't like that actor in it. And
exactly.
He didn't portray the Empire in a good light.
The future pagan god has spoken.
That's right. Pagan god emperor. Get it right, or the special police will come visit you.
Oh my goodness.
This has been a running joke with me and my friends since high school. From a character in a Dungeons and Dragons game.
I feel like you should make a movie about this.
The Pagan God Emperor taking over.
That would be hilarious. Yes.
I'm thinking now. You guys got me thinking script here.
Woo!
Yeah. So I mean, I think you kind of answered the question there.
I think yeah. Well, that was a good show today. All right. Well,
yeah, that was an awesome discussion. We're done.
Well, I mean, as far as that, maybe so, but I mean, you could kind of talk about your plan for what's coming up.
Oh, well, before we do that, let me flip it a little bit and ask you this then. From the Imperial side, are the rebels evil?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Rebel scum.
Beggars. Yeah, did you see they killed millions on the Death Star?
Exactly.
Millions. Terrorist organization.
Mm-hmm.
Families, like all of them.
Yeah.
Like
horrible. It was horrible.
Poor Bob from accounting was just trying to have lunch, and
I know, right?
Yeah. And boom, the whole place blew up under him.
Next thing you know, he's visiting his family on Alderaan. Too soon? Too soon?
Too soon? Yeah.
Too soon. Yeah.
Spoilers? Oh, sorry.
Oh.
Oh my God. You brought this on yourself, Mark.
You did. You really did.
Mea culpa. Mea culpa.
No, but I, truthfully, though, from the Imperial standpoint, yeah, I would have to absolutely say that they viewed the rebels as a terrorist organization that just constantly caused trouble.
Yeah. Trying to overthrow a legitimate government.
And they were nothing until that little action where they got some plans and stuff, you know.
Yeah. Which supposedly the Emperor himself let them get. So.
Well, that was the second time around. Don't get confused.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
According to him, everything he did was part of his plan.
Well, no, that's why he had to get rid of that little terrorist organization, because I don't think they were.
I don't know. He's a crafty guy.
I don't think the old beggar had that much going for him.
I just know I want to see Rogue Squadron 2 mini Bothans.
Oh, yeah, we were supposed to pick them up. But, we were the extraction team, but we were getting drunk.
Yeah. Rogue.
You should never drive when drunk.
Rogue 2 mini Bothans. That's what yes.
2 hours of Bothan death. Oh, man. I can't imagine that would go over very well.
No, you know what you do is you just have a scene of just like the Halloween scene of Darth Vader just going through, just slaughtering all of them with the 1812 overture in the background. So it's like dun 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 zoom zoom dun 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 zoom zoom.
Oh, and he does it looking like a conductor.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh man, that'd be ridiculous.
He's conducting the show. Wow.
One of our listeners make that happen.
I think that'd be a great, hilarious fan film.
I think it would.
Oh, I would. Yes.
We need to get a bunch of people together, dress up like Bothans, and make this happen.
Unfortunately, we're not exactly geographically set up to do that together.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. East Coast, West Coast, and Midwest.
Yeah, we kind of got it all covered.
Yeah, we do.
Well, maybe one day.
Maybe. All right. So as Ray kind of hinted at, we have some big news coming up. We mentioned it last week. We've already made the official announcement of our end of the year show, which of course will be the Trial of Darth Vader.
A fan film production making absolutely no money, no profit, And
it had no sense.
Star Wars is completely owned by Lucasfilm Incorporated and Disney.
Exactly.
Thank you for that.
Yep.
But no, this is going to be a very, very kind of a special thing we're doing. Kind of just something fun. Yeah, something fun and a way to kind of. This is definitely, at least for me, something I want to use to get you out there, the listeners, a little bit more involved, because you are going to be our jury. You are going to be the one that will be. We'll have a poll set up probably after the episode that you can vote guilty, not guilty. We'll figure all the details out with that later, and you guys will be the ones that will determine the fate of the Dark Lord of the Sith.
And we also, if we are able to arrange schedules, have an announcement. C. Andrew Nelson will be coming on board to play himself as Darth Vader again.
Yes.
If any of you caught C. Andrew's interview a few episodes back, he has actually worn the costume more than anyone else playing Darth Vader.
Yeah.
So we are extremely excited about that.
That is cool. So you're going to be getting more information as the weeks go on about this episode. We're looking to make this our biggest episode ever. Not just as a matter of time, but we're wanting to get the most viewers we've ever had for War of the Stars. Right now, our record is, ironically, with one of our early shows, which happened to be on this very subject, 200 viewers on YouTube was our biggest show we've ever had. And personally, I'd like to beat that for this special episode of The Trial of Darth Vader. So
I will get that artwork done so we can start advertising hard.
That's right. So that's what we have to look forward to. As far as next week's show, we are going to be looking at probably one of the biggest topics as far as I'm concerned with current events in Star Wars is the fandom itself. We're going to be looking at the quote-unquote toxic fan base in Star Wars and how they have hurt the franchise. And so it's going to be a really interesting conversation, I think. And look forward to hearing your feedback from this show. If you want to give us feedback, of course, you can email us at Realm of the Mist Entertainment. Just put in a comment for War of the Stars in the subject matter so that they know what you're talking about. You can also comment on the YouTube page. That's Realm of the Mist Entertainment if you want to find us. You can also find us on Facebook at Realm of the Mist Entertainment, at Fans of Realm of the Mist Entertainment, and at War of the Stars. On Twitter, you can find us at Realm of the Mist Entertainment. You can find me on Twitter at JohnMarkTolly1 and on Instagram at JohnTolly3930 and on Facebook at Mark Tolley. Ray, where can they find you at?
Taking a deep breath for this. No. You can find me with Realm of the Mist Entertainment. I do Breaking the Fourth Wall, of course, War of the Stars, right here with you guys. I am also part of Chronicles of the Lost Realm, and I play with some of the guys over at Shattered Tabletop Games, playing Shattered Dawn on Tuesdays. I do that. And I also have another side project going that's called The Leo Effects. You can find that on Facebook as well as Chronicles of the Lost Realm. Just type that into the search bar, hit enter, and it'll take you right to them.
Awesome. And Joe, where can people find you?
They can find me over on Facebook at Joe Cahill, director-producer, or under Steamhouse Entertainment, my company. You can find us on Instagram under Steamhouse Entertainment, YouTube, same thing. And over on Twitter, you could find us under, it's Steamhouse Entertainment, but it is Steampunk Coffee for the username.
Cool. All right. Well, that will do it for this week. And remember, this isn't just my Star Wars. This isn't just your Star Wars. This is our Star Wars. Until next week, may the Force be with you.